Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Just a couple things to go over normal business before we get started with the interviews. At the end of the normal business, I'd like to request that we go to executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and conduct interviews for Sergeant. To start off, communications is something that came up this past 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago, is there's been some changes to the bail criminal justice system that were attached to the new New York State budget. We did see some givebacks towards some of the stuff that was relinquished in 2018-19 with the bail reform. So it's not what we overall wanted, but we saw some progress going in the right direction. So we appreciate that. If you would like more details on that, I could send you, a synopsis of it, or I could discuss it, however you would like, whichever you prefer. So it's up to you. Email? Okay. So I'll email some of the summaries to you. So then if you have questions, I'm more than willing to talk about them. But I have nothing in old business unless anyone from the commission does. Moving into new business, I did forward the commission the March Police Commission minutes for your review. And if you have any questions that you would like to discuss, if I had any errors or omissions or anything that was missed. I'll have to get you new glasses so you find the errors. Anybody? Motion to accept them as written. I have a motion by Commissioner Mills, second by Commissioner Vignola. All in favor?
Aye.
So monthly reports, I did not forward our internal monthly report. I did forward the one that I'm getting from the Intel Center, again, which is kind of similar. It's a little more robust, some nicer graphs and whatnot. We are still having some struggles internally, and it's not just us. We've realized in conversation through my police chiefs meeting that other departments are having similar issues. It is the program. It's our impact records management system. It's somehow locking up cases in the queue, and they're not coming out. We've realized some of our local departments recently are showing zeros for crime in their communities, sharing with them our challenges of what we're doing to overcome them. We're getting closer. I think we went from 1,700 cases locked up to about 100 and something right now. So I have a staff member going case by case, working with both a member in DCJS, Zach, I believe his name is, and a representative from the software program, trying to rectify the situation. It's not a simple task. It is very tedious having to go through case by case trying to do this. And they're finding different things throughout the process. On a positive note, we should be out of this records management system in about a year and a half onto something newer, more robust, better support. This was bought by another company. They don't really want it. They bought out their competition, so they don't really know the inner workings of it. So they're not really adept at helping us. So it is a challenge, but it is something that we continue to work on.
Our new company's not the same people.
No, we went to a whole different company. It's a Canadian-based company. We're doing a county-wide program. This company actually just, Suffolk County just contracted with them. The New York State Police contracted with them. So it is a very positive company, a lot of great features. They're very lucrative, like with their software products. They customize them. They make them so much better than what we have today. And it's a standalone company. They're not trying to manage multiple different software platforms. This is what they do. This is their business. They're all over Europe. They've been around for a long time. So right now it looks like everybody that's involved in the planning process is very, very happy with what we should see. But again, we're about a year and a half, give or take, away from that. So we will struggle through this. But I do have some numbers to go over with the commission. Just from the month of March, during the month, we handled 2,660 calls for service, which was a just over 13% increase from the month of February, where we had 2,341 calls. Our Part 1 crimes for the month of March, we had an increase from the previous month. We had 41 Part 1 crimes, 5 of those categorized as violent, and 36 property. Out of those 36 property, we're still seeing the biggest percentage of those in the larceny category. Remember, larceny is one of those categories that there's really no bail for, so the person could be arrested. But there is some new stuff in the new changes that could help us there. February, we had 35 Part 1 crimes, so we saw an increase of 6 overall.
Mayor Rallison Poughkeepsie yesterday mentioned that multiple days in a row, the town and the city of same guy for stealing a car. Different vehicle.
Isn't that sad? That's awful.
Every night he went out and stole a car.
Call Kathy Hochul.
Yeah. There is some changes, I'll talk about that real quick, that if you are out on an open charge and you get rearrested for a Class A misdemeanor or any felony, you can be held for bail. Not that you have to have bail, you can be held for bail now. So that's one of the more positives that came out of the new reform. Part 2 crimes for the month of March, we had 77, which was almost, it's 33 up from the month of February. Month of March, we had 203 arrests in comparison to 160 in the month of February. So that increase in proactive arrest, which most of it's proactive arrest, that's also direct relation to the increase in crime, because the more arrests we make, the more crime we report. So those increases have somewhat of a parallel effect from the arrest. Traffic tickets, we issued 392 for the month of March in comparison to 225 for February. And parking tickets, we issued 623 for the month of March in comparison to 492 in February. For the month of March, again, we made 203 arrests. Out of those arrests, 4 of those arrest incidents had uses of force associated with them, which equates to 2% of total arrests had some type of use of force. For the month, we saw 2 shots fired incidents. One was confirmed, one was unfounded. The confirmed one I will discuss a little bit more in detail when we go over case review, but that occurred on March 28th at the intersection of Wickham Avenue and Beatty Avenue. No one was injured. Any questions with the statistics? Would you like to talk further about those? On April 9th, the civil service conducted our police officer exam. We had about 453, if I'm not mistaken, people sign up for the exam. About 360 sat for the exam because about 90 of the people that applied did not have to take the exam again. They were just going to transfer the score that they received in the September exam to this exam, and that's all done through civil service. But no issues with the exam, went off well. Good turnout. What we did, we asked civil service to do a little survey for us at the exam to see where the people got the information so that we know how to better address the next exam as far as recruiting. So we gave them a little quick survey, no name or anything attached, just, where did you learn about the exam? And overwhelmingly, out of the, we received 367 surveys back. And out of those, 153, which is the most, heard about it from a friend or family member. Second highest would be social media, with 97 saying they heard it from social media. We spent some money on radio ads. 4 people indicated they heard us on the radio. From going to the colleges, 17 people said that they heard from colleges. Then you have some for other gym where we put flyers. We also contracted with another police website. It's called Police One, only 4 people from there. So this is going to help us better address going forward, which I thought was a good idea, so we know where to put our money and our resources and our time. Moving into staffing, today we have 2 vacancies for police officers. We're looking to fill them hopefully with the commission's approval when the new exam comes out, the results of the new exam. With the officers that I currently have, 1 is on disability. I have 1 that is out currently on injury, which I'll go over in detail when we get into executive session. I have 3 in field training. I have 3 in the police academy. So out of the 69 that I currently have on staff, I am missing some to those other aspects. Police Officer Sullivan, who was hired at the last meeting, began his career with us. Actually, he got hired in February, began his career March 21st. He's doing fantastic. You can definitely tell his experience from New York City is carrying him through, just fine-tuning him to the way we do things, our policies, our procedures, our paperwork. He'll be ready to go. Seems very, very, very positive, energetic. Nothing but good reviews from him. Sergeant Jennings did retire on March 31st after 19 years of service with the police department. He vacated sergeant's position, which hopefully today we'll be able to fill that vacancy from our current civil service exam. In the last meeting, I briefed the commission that I was going to start adding some additional details, which I did as of April 4th. I added the downtown officer. I assigned Officer Troya. Officer Troya has not been to the downtown on a full-time basis because he's helping us manage the transition into the SRO program as well. So he's been back and forth between the two. I believe I have one more week of him doing that before he'll be in the downtown full-time. The traffic detail, I have Officer Sandra assigned to that. Just in the 2.5 weeks, he's written over 100 tickets himself, doing his traffic enforcement, and we're following up on community complaints, hot spots, information from the speed trailer. Officer Sandra, Andrew Sandra. Glasses.
Okay, yeah.
And then in the plainclothes unit, I have Officer Giovanelio and Officer Pizzola, and they're doing a great job. Again, in the 12 days they've been out there, they've made 42 proactive arrests, with the highest that they've, the most serious crime that they've intervened in and took action was with a rape charge that they charged an individual. And they're doing city code violations, traffic summons, but so far so good, and they're out there and they seem to be having a positive impact. Moving forward, spoke with dispatcher Massey. He's been back and forth with some personal issues, and it does appear that he is moving towards retiring. He has not given me his official date, but I expect to have that any day now. I do have an interview set up for next week with a potential replacement for him from the civil service exam. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have some more definitive answers and dates in regards to him. Additionally, I was advised by our animal control officer, Bill Hamaris, that he is resigning his position effective May 31st and moving out of state to the state of Florida. Currently, we do not have an active list of candidates for that. The exam will be given this October, so once the exam is out, we'll process to fill his position as well. Moving into training, just since our last meeting, I'll just go over some of the training that the department participated in. We conducted one of our quarterly firearms qualifications. That's department-wide. We've sent instructors to the police academy for their firearms training. We've sent officers to the police academy to instruct the field training program. That's to teach our officers how to become field training officers for our newer officers. We've had 2 officers attend the Part A Department of Transportation course, which is about commercial vehicle enforcement through the state. That's Officer Hart and Monaco. They've been very proactive with that, and they do monthly interventions on the highways or the streets throughout the city for the commercial vehicles. We sent Officer Hargett to instruct recognizing cannabis-impaired drivers. We've had Detective DeYoung assisting with defensive tactics at the police academy. We've had Sergeant Beebe and Sergeant McCann attend transformational leadership training. Officer Thornton and Officer Baudet attended tactical narcotics debriefing courses. Sergeant Regino taught arrest processing at the police academy. Officer Chasapanta is attending the field training officers course at the police academy. Dispatchers and all of the dispatchers and all of the patrol supervisors have attended a 311 training, which is the county's new mental health crisis line, that they're connected with the 911 system, that if the person is in need of mental health services, instead of tying up a emergency services dispatcher, that call is transferred to this 311 program. So we had their staff come in, speak to our patrol supervisors and dispatchers to explain to them how to do it on our end as well. Again, to hopefully free up some of the emergency responses to mental health calls. And then we also had Detective Brichot and Detective Rosen attend training investigating crimes against children. So we try to stay up as much training. We try to get them done in the spring and the fall and winter, so they're the busy summer months, so we don't have to task ourselves with splitting our resources so much. Some of the other programs that we've participated, we just recently had on March 30th, the graduation of our first Leadership Academy. I personally feel it was a great success. We had 18 graduates, great support for it, and it's something we would like to continue to do. I'm gonna be putting together a program to propose to the council, commission, the mayor, to get us some funding to do another round in the fall, and then maybe work towards some grant funding and other internal funding to make sure that we can continue doing this. Speaking with the youth that were involved, they want more of it. They want it to be more than one night a week. They like the interaction. They love learning from us. We love learning from them. So it was a great, great course. That was all funded by a county youth grant, and it was awesome. It really was across the board.
I just wanted to say something.
Yes.
I was fortunate enough to attend the graduation ceremony, and a few students spoke,
Yes.
and it was so impressive. They had nothing but praises for the department, and it was very moving. Very
Yeah.
moving. Proud to be
Thank you. The other program, Lexipol, I've spoken about. It's the software program company that we partnered with to do our policy procedure. We're full bore with this company, and we're trying to beat their records. They kind of tease us about other departments have done it and this or that. So we're trying to stay ahead, and our goal is about that year mark to have us up to speed, give or take. So we have our weekly meetings. We do a weekly internal meeting followed by a weekly meeting with the company, the rep from the company, to make sure we're staying on track. So far, I mean, the policies that they're presenting to us, we get the opportunity to fine tune every single one of them to make it unique to our organization. But I think they're very, very well written policies. And we'll be forwarding them to the commission later on this year to make sure that you are okay with them, to get your final approval and acceptance of them before they actually go out to the officers. Since the last meeting, I've had one employee come down with COVID. That was just recently, asymptomatic, but he did still test positive. So we went a couple months with nothing. Hopefully this is not the start of anything new. He's out for a few days following the guidance. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully it's an isolated incident. Upcoming events, the only thing that we have coming up in the near future is we'll be participating in the citywide cleanup, which is this Saturday, April 23rd, meeting here at John Degnan Square. Any questions thus far? I did bring some cases just to go over real quick, some cases of note. The first two that I'd like to just discuss real quick are cases I presented at the last meeting. The reason I bring them back because we've had some significant outcomes with those cases. Last month I did brief the commission on a robbery and armed robbery that occurred on February 15th at David Moore Heights of a taxi driver, 3 teenage male suspects. Detective Rosen, Detective Bailey, and Detective Brichot have been working this case. They've actually made 2 arrests so far. 16-year-old youth from the community, both lived in the David Moore Heights community complex, so that's a very, very positive, considering that we really didn't have much to go on other than their, putting in their efforts and tracking down as many leads as they could. And hopefully we'll come up with a 3rd suspect. And then we believe they're attached to another robbery that occurred on Prince Street shortly thereafter. So they'll get through this one, and hopefully it'll go into that one. The other case that I'd like to bring some attention to is last month I discussed a robbery that our department assisted with. It was of the smoke shop just outside the city by Maddie's Diner, armed subject. What we did is we had Detective Bailey, who does some 2 days a week in the Crime Analysis Center in Goshen. He became certified in a NIBIN machine. It's an ATF analyzation machine, software computer that you take a bullet casing, you put it in, and it analyzes and creates data, and it connects those casings to other cases. Like say we have a case and another department may have a case, or whoever puts information into it, the computer analyzes it and brings those cases together. He took the bullet casings from that case, from that robbery. It wasn't our call or our investigation. As state police, we worked with them. They gave us the casings. He inputted that into the system, and it came back connected to our Highland Avenue shooting from December, as well as 2 shootings in New York City. So their meeting, they already met once with the investigators from those respective agencies to put together whatever intel they have so they can start building cases together. So here, we've only had Chris certified in this a few months, and we're already getting positive results from it. So that's a real big hit for us to go forward on. So just wanted to bring some attention to that our efforts are working. Some new cases. March 18th, just a quick overview, and I have the cases if you want any more specific details on any of these, or if you would like to discuss them further. Department arrested 5 youth. This was at the high school. They were leaving the high school. It's part of what was being put out through social media as the Orbeez Challenge, where kids are going around with these water pellet guns. They're spring-operated water pellets, shooting them. So the school had an incident. We put additional people there the following day. As school was being released, the car pulled up, 5 kids in it, 4 of them hanging out the window shooting the kids. We had detectives. We had everybody in the area. Detectives saw it, were able to stop it, and we arrested the 5 juveniles that were in the vehicle. and they're being held accountable for their actions. From that point, we have not, knock on wood, had any more of those incidents. March 28th, this is the incident I mentioned with the shots fired. This was at the intersection of Wickham and Beatty. It was right around that 3 o'clock to 45-ish time. Witness who's passing by calls in and says that they saw a dispute. A vehicle pulls up to the intersection, a dark-colored Acura SUV. Two people get out of it, confront another group that were in the area, exchanging words, and then one of the subjects pulls out a handgun and shoots one round into the sidewalk, gets in the car, they leave, the other group leaves. By the time we get there, which was only moments, we have no victim, we have no suspect. We just have a couple witnesses that have some conflicting stories, but enough to show us that, something did happen. Some video was obtained from the area that shows a vehicle pull up. We can't get a license plate, we can't get descriptions, but we do have an incident there. We just really have no real intel to go on. So it's still an opening investigation that we'll pursue, and hopefully something comes up. Maybe that car hits on something else that we can get a license plate or somewhere to go on. On April 1st, we had an incident where this is where Officer Trapini gets hurt, which I'll go into his specific details in executive session. Male operating a dirt bike on North Street. Officers attempt to stop him. He flees, drives around them. Every time they try to stop him, ends up going up the railroad tracks. Officers try to circumvent him, go around the other side, come through the cemetery of St. Joe's. They end up finding him in the backside of the cemetery, go to confront him. He's non-compliant still trying to get away from them. They try to tase him. It's not very effective. They end up getting close enough to him that they're able to pull him off of his bike. He's still non-compliant, resisting the efforts of the officer, and Officer Trapini ends up breaking his hand, taking him into custody. It's not a kid, 36-year-old resident of Middletown, should know better, shouldn't be doing that. So we are trying to take a proactive approach to stopping this behavior because we do see it, especially when the weather gets warmer, and we're trying to curb it. We did pass the law last year to help us better enforce this, so hopefully between our efforts and that law, we could curb some of this inappropriate behavior. April 3rd, we did have a shots fired incident on Prince Street. It was a Sunday afternoon about 5:30. According to our witnesses, they were driving by in vehicles. They see two males come out of the area of the Prince Ogden area, possibly from the area of 14 Prince, but we've tracked all that back. We don't have any suspects from that area or that house that match the descriptions. Come out, passing car, they deploy several shots at the car. Witnesses at the window of the car is broken. Basically, we have a victim car. We have not been able to locate it. It has a Pennsylvania plate, comes back to an area out in Pennsylvania. To our knowledge, no one was hit. We don't have any information on our suspects other than two male suspects right now. So that is in all of our databases, trying to find that car if we come across it. Seemed like it was an intentional shooting towards those targets. It doesn't seem to be anything other than they were looking for their intended targets. And then on April 5th, this was Royce Avenue. This is Officer McHugh and Officer Uven. They were following up on a narcotics complaint, conducted a vehicle stop of subjects leaving a narcotics known location. During the course of their vehicle stop, they recovered a loaded handgun from one of the persons of the vehicle stop. It's a male subject. He's the male defendant, Dwayne Taylor, 41 years old. Garnerville, New York is his last known address. And at the time of arrest, he was on federal parole for narcotics. So he's been arrested, has no right to own or possess a handgun. So good work by Officer McHugh and Officer Uven there. April 7th, this is something that went out in the media that involves a school. This is where the school was closed down just before spring break. Basically, in substance, an Uber driver comes to us that evening of the 7th to tell us that she had just driven a young, approximately 16-year-old male around for the last several hours delivering marijuana. And during the course of that interaction, she observes him hand off a handgun to someone, ammunition, and at some point she believes an ID, like a lanyard ID. So after she did her business and got paid, she came to the police department to tell us, like, I don't think something's right. We started looking into it, some of the addresses we were aware of some other people we've dealt with, so on and so forth. So got the school involved. We thought it was the right decision, along with the school, to to cancel school the next day. God forbid there is any issue at the school, because one of the things that the Uber driver said she overheard is when the handgun was exchanged, the person said, "Meet me at the school tomorrow at 10 a.m." So it definitely brought alarm to us. We didn't want any issues. So again, out of an abundance of caution, the decision was made to cancel school to allow the follow-up. We worked with the state police and Walk Hill because it was around in multiple locations. And as of right now, we have nothing to indicate that there's any ill intent towards the school. We have nothing to indicate that there's actually a real handgun passed off. We have all types of information confirming that he was dealing marijuana, driving around doing that, but we can't put the other pieces together right now. But thank God she did come to us, and maybe she did divert a real serious event there. And lastly, this is not a big case, but it's something I've never seen really charged. It's one of those cases you learn about, a charge you learn about, and it's like, you might get that. But Officer Conklin was assigned a case where one of the city residents came forward to say that he's been using a loan shark because he's on disability and he doesn't get a lot of money and he's got to wait for his checks to come through. Someone that lives in his complex was loaning him money, but he was charging him 100% interest rate. So Officer Conklin gets the case, follows up, says, this is the suspect, goes and meets with the suspect. He's like, yeah, I loan everybody money. Gets it all on body camera, and she inadvertently is like, well, what do you get in return when you loan money? He's like, if I loan 50, I get 100 in return. Perfect. So it's just one of those cases you don't really ever get to charge. It's called criminal usury when you charge someone an exorbitant amount of interest on something. So I just thought it'd be something to bring to light, because it is probably once in a lifetime you ever see that real charge where you could really charge it. And the great thing there was the body camera captured his whole confession, which was a nice component. So would you like to discuss any of the cases further, or would you like further details on any of those cases?
I just had a comment that I can't, it's just an example of time we're living in, times we're living. That a teenager uses Uber for their pot delivery. It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah. And she didn't think anything about that aspect of it. She was at least, thoughtful enough to tell us that when it became a gun involved, or what she believed to be a gun. But the marijuana was, that's not a big deal. You're right, it is the time we live in.
Wow.
And if there's any other cases that you're made aware of, please reach out to me and I'll share whatever with you. Any other discussion on those cases? I did email the commission 5 internal investigations for your review. I don't know if you had the opportunity to review them, if you want to table it, or you would like to discuss them or approve them this evening. Did they not come through?
The car incidents, the accidents?
Yeah, there's a property damage MVA, injury to a defendant, use of force injury, and another accident.
Yeah.
Probably about 2 weeks ago, I emailed them out. You want to table them? Table them? Okay. We'll table them for the next meeting. What's that?
I don't remember.
Okay, no problem. So that's all I have on the agenda. Commission have anything they would like to discuss? Eileen, is there anyone online that has any questions or would like to comment?
There is not.
Okay. That being said, I would request that we have a motion to move into executive session to discuss personnel matters and to conduct interviews. So I have a motion by Commissioner Vignola, second by Commissioner Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
We'll move into executive session at 5:24 p.m.
Please be advised this ends the public portion of today's meeting. Thank you.